Hi, welcome. Here we are today at the Commercial Real Estate Show. I am so excited. I always talk about going to go talk to your local economic development director. So today's special guest is here today to answer the top 10 questions we have for him. Also, we're going to find out about city incentives, how to get those if you're working on your project. We're also going to find out if the city has any available property, because I heard this one city recently turned a fire station into a restaurant.
Which city would that be?
So stay tuned. We have a great show for you. We just have a quick few commercials and we'll be right back. So see you soon.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCastro.com, and Life in Air.
Hi, welcome back. I am so excited today. Today we have with us Marty Wieder from the city of Grand Prairie.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? And hi,
great,
Shelby.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so glad both of you are here. We have a few things to follow up with Shelby from the last couple episodes. So we'll go over that with her first, and then we can't wait to talk to you about what's happening in the prairie that's now turned grand. So
well, I'm honored you asked me. Look forward to it.
Well, good. Hi, Shelby.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Have you been out there looking at property?
I have. I see a few that are very interesting.
Oh, good. Well, I just wanted to briefly, just follow up from the last couple episodes we had. So how is your business card? Did those arrive yet? Or
They did. They're so pretty.
Oh, good. Perfect.
Do we show? Can y'all see how great my card is?
So anyways, we always talk about the first thing you need to do is to go out and get a business card that says investor and developer. So you are ready, you have your cards, you're ready to go out there and start looking for property. So good job on that. We talked about also updating your LinkedIn. We worked on that last week. And then in the upcoming shows, the next one is we will actually go start talking to a commercial lender so we can get some money so that we can you're ready to buy your second location for your business. So we'll go do that. But today's episode is so exciting, and we want to welcome you, Marty, to the studio.
Thanks, Pam. I'm glad to be with you.
I know we've known each other for it's been
a day or two.
A day or two years, but I know you're currently at Grand Prairie. Before that, prior to that, you were at the city of Colleyville.
Right.
Prior to that, city of North Richland Hills.
And there was a gap in there, about a 10-year gap, because I kind of took a sabbatical and got to work in the private sector with an architecture firm, which was really good because I got to get my planning designation certification, but got to really get my hands dirty working on development itself. And I think it gives you more credibility when you're out working on behalf of businesses because they know you've had to work for a profit too.
That's
so
great.
It makes a difference.
And it says that you grew up in Arlington, Texas, where the studio is here. You attended the University of Texas at Arlington for your bachelor's degree in communication, and then you went on to get your master's in urban affairs.
Liked it so much I came back for more.
That's great. And then also, I noticed on LinkedIn, because I was also, even though we've known each other and I've seen you at a lot of conferences that we attend, but I noticed on LinkedIn, because I always suggest to people before you're meeting with them to go on LinkedIn, how we talked about that, and it said that you're the community swizzle stick.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to exactly what that means.
Well, there was a quote I had seen not too long ago about how we have to help a community move from point A to point B. And many times in communities, if you don't keep things moving, it's like a drink. It has a tendency to settle to the bottom. So we kind of have to get out there and stir things up. I mean, we've got to be the ones introducing brokers to property owners and bringing in prospects and making sure we help them find the right property so they succeed. And sometimes that means asking some questions or doing some things, making suggestions that not everybody, they may wonder about your question sometimes. So it's okay to kind of push the edge. I think a good economic development director does that.
Oh, good. That's great. And so you're a long-time resident of Texas, and you and your wife, Bonnie, have 4 children and 1 grandchild.
And two more grands on the way.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're thrilled.
Well, good. Well, we're so excited. As I always talk, from my Brinker days and working at Chili's, it was always the first step to go meet with your local city economic development director, because I just think you're when we're out there looking for property, your team and department is just a wealth of information.
And I'm glad you believe that, Pam, because we were talking earlier about not everybody, unfortunately, thinks that, or maybe doesn't think that that's someplace you should call first. We've got data, we've got aerials. We were talking about this earlier. Our city is so long. We're about 33 miles from tip to toe, 84 square miles. So ours is two-sided. The hard copies we've got them available electronically. So we email them to people. We've got all kinds of different data. You may have seen from our website, I know we're going to talk about that here in a minute, that we're a part of CoStar. We access LoopNet data. We'll do searches for people. So if we know somebody's coming in and they've got a site or an interest, we can do property searches for them based on their criteria and come up with packages and try to give you a head start, because we want to make sure, again, that you succeed.
Yeah, that's great. I know every time I go to Grand Prairie, it's really grown. Doing research before you go meet with a city, it's always great to look on your website to see exactly what you've done. But reading about the Prairie, that was now is Grand, but the Prairie back then in 1863, Alexander Beckman actually bought almost 300 acres. It said back there in 1863 for $200.
What a deal.
So, what a deal. So,
savvy.
And he probably thought that was really, really expensive at that time. Kind of similar how people think property is expensive today. In 100 years, they'll be like, oh, I remember that property in Grand Prairie. That was $12 a square foot.
A square foot.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought that was crazy.
Crazy, and now it's $100. So going over the history a little bit of Grand Prairie, I know that you're the second happiest city.
Actually, yes, second happiest in the nation here recently. And I think something that dovetails with that, our police department, the FBI ratings just came in. We're the 7th safest city in Texas of the 34 cities over 100,000 in population.
Wow, that's
so we've made some real advances. We were our police chief, Steve Dye, when he came here about a decade ago, we were 16th among the 34. So he's dropped a lot of places, done some tremendous work in trying to create a much safer community. I think that's part of the reason why people are happy. I know it's why people come and invest. I really believe that people that are looking for properties, our businesses and our residents really appreciate that fact, that they feel safe. I'll brag on our fire department too. We're also an ISO 1 rating, if you know what that is.
No.
They were able to prove in concert with our dispatch and our public works department that we had met the highest rating you can for fire reporting and response. And so that means lower insurance rates for people that own property in the town. We're putting money in your pocket.
That's a good thing to know. So depending on that can lower your business insurance,
That's
right?
correct.
You should ask that if you're a property owner, right?
You need to ask whatever city you're in, what's your ISO rating?
Okay, that's good to know.
We get to keep that #1 rating for 10 years.
Oh, wow. So how do you actually establish that? There's a whole guideline, I'm sure, criteria.
I'm not familiar with all the criteria, but we can get that for you if you want. If you have somebody that has questions, we'd be glad to provide that. But yeah, they had to go through a review. You do that. The ISO group comes in and does a review every so often. But we were surrounded by 2s at the time, and it's nice to give a little break to your businesses. It's a good business retention factor too.
It really looks like the city of Grand Prairie, really, really has been booming. I always think of it as the, Lone Star Racetrack and gone out to the Verizon. I think they might have changed the name. Is it Nokia now?
It's the theater at Grand Prairie. We had Verizon still on it as the main title sponsor, and they agreed, even though their period of time had expired, they agreed to stay on, but they had to change their logo, and they said, hey, their logo is going to be, the brand is changing, please take down the name. So it's the theater at Grand Prairie right now.
Okay, so I've been to concerts out there. Have you been over there?
Yeah. A long time ago when I was in high school.
That was a few years ago, right? So anyway, it's a great, it's a great city definitely to develop, but really, I know a lot of the cities from, Plano to Frisco to Irving to Grand Prairie to Grapevine to Arlington are always competing for development projects. So if you could answer what separates the city of Grand Prairie, from the rest. Because how long have you been there?
I've been there, it'll be 3 years, at the end of May.
Okay.
So almost 3 years. A couple of things. Our location, more than anything, to be right smack dab in the middle of 7 million people is very attractive. Shelby and I were talking earlier about being so close to DFW International and Dallas Love Field. So for business people, if you're flying Southwest or you're flying all the others, you can get there in a matter of minutes. We've got this grid of streets of major highways with 30 and 20, 360, 161, Loop 12 just outside our border that kind of forms a nice basis to be able to get around. We are one of the few cities that actually has the benefit of two lakes. We're not really on Mountain Creek, but it's all around us. You can see it. We've got more Joe Pool than any other city. Most people aren't aware of that. We're in 3 counties, and our extraterritorial jurisdiction extends all the way down into a 4th. Wow. We don't know if that'll ever develop, but we go all the way down into Johnson County. So we're in Tarrant, Dallas, Ellis, and then eventually maybe Johnson. We've got the benefit of a real strong industrial background and DNA, but what I like is we're kind of transitioning out of that more and more to more of an office, corporate headquarter type aspect. We've always had a tie to aviation and aerospace, and our largest employer, Lockheed Martin Missiles and Fire Control, the headquarters for that division of Lockheed Martin is in our city, about 3,500 employees. We had a great story this past week with the Dallas Morning News on them. Airbus Helicopters has their North American headquarters in town. That's a real strong basis. Yet we're also now starting to see some companies help us do something a little different. We've always had distribution, warehouse manufacturing and distribution. We had a company about a year and a half ago choose to leave our city, Restoration Hardware, which was in a huge building. But lo and behold, in just a matter of months, the brokers who represented it teamed up with Living Spaces, a furniture company that's in Texas but has not been in North Texas, and they're getting ready to open their first here in just a few weeks. It'll have both 175,000 square feet of retail out front, but it's still going to have, of the balance of the 844,000 square foot building, distribution. In fact, they're already storing and shipping out furniture out of the backside of that facility. So we kind of have this consort of distribution and retail that in the right place along a major corridor can really set us apart, we think, because we get beneficially sales tax revenues off the retail sales, as well as if they order it online and it's shipped out of that space, that comes to be a benefit for Grand Prairie.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to go over our 10 questions, but
good.
I really just, talking about the EDC, which I always refer to Economic Development Corporation, but then I just found out today that there's a difference between, as far as the corporation and how your departments are set up, differently with all of the different cities or within Texas. So if you could educate our viewers on what the EDC, how you refer to yourself.
Yeah, if you want to talk about that, I'd be glad to. That's become an acronym that in this region a lot of people use because we've got some cities that are allowed through the state of Texas to create an economic development corporation. And what it means is each city gets a full cent of sales tax for the general fund, the regular operations of most everything else in your city. You also have a right to have referendum elections for other purposes. Ours has a crime control and prevention district. We also adopted a tax percentage to rebuild roads in town. That's how we built our new Epic Waters indoor water park as well in our Epic Waters facility, or Epic Recreation Center, because the citizens wanted it and they voted for a referendum to create a tax for that purpose. Some cities have created economic development corporations and said, let's set aside a quarter cent, a half cent. One city even has a full cent that they use only for economic development purposes. So they're able to go out and buy land and do deals because they've got all their sales tax monies they're able to do that with. So it just kind of gives you, if you're in that position, a great way to be able to facilitate maybe development and have a little more in the way of resources. For the rest of us, we've got to be a little more creative sometimes. Maybe we work in trying to extend and expand our tax increment reinvestment zones. We just did that for our TIF number 1. Added some space, extended another 20 years, added in another county. We just went and met with that county this morning, and I think they may team up with us and help us. So we'll find some other ways. If you're a non-EDC, you're an economic development department. We brand ourselves as the City of Grand Prairie Economic Development, but you're really considered what's called an EDO, an Economic Development Organization. But we respond whatever you want to call us, because we're here to help.
Yeah, that's great. So as I mentioned before, I've always thought as the Economic Development Director, anytime I'm looking at property, considering property, I always go on to that website
Yes.
to find out the information. So we just wanted to go over which, we have 10 top questions.
Hey, let's dive in.
And
I
so
like that.
the first thing to do is look on the website, find out who the Economic Development Director is, either email or call and request a meeting.
Yes, introduce yourself. And I think even because of how busy our market is right now, if you don't have to have a face-to-face right away, make that LinkedIn connection. We respond to that.
Okay.
And maybe exchange a little bit of data first. Maybe we can find out a little bit more about you and what you're looking for so that when we do get face-to-face, we can respect your time.
That's great. I always like on LinkedIn. Yeah, I looked up yours and found out some good information on what you're doing and some of the information you're posting and blogs and information. So our first question is, do you have an overall aerial map of the city?
Oh, we do. Yes, we do. You pointed out earlier that we had it.
Yeah,
we'll
so
unfold it since it's so big. And as I mentioned, that inset will show you how long our city is and gives you an idea of how it goes into so many counties. The top half is the northern portion of our city. So you can see there the entertainment district you were talking about earlier. I mentioned Mountain Creek Lake, our proximity to Dallas on this end, to Arlington over there, Irving to the north. There's I-30, I-20, and then if you flip it over, you're able to see, let's see, I'm going to get it upside down. There we go. The entire backside with our Joe Pool Lake, and the fact that we've got a 1,000-acre peninsula that juts out onto Lake Joe Pool. A quarter of it, about 251 acres, is developable, is out of the floodplain. The city has a 99-year lease from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to develop that space. So we can team up with somebody, have talked with some people in the past about coming out there and developing maybe some kind of a conference center, resort, hotel complex.
Wow.
And so that gives you an idea of what we're able to discuss. There's State Highway 360, which has just been extended. Most don't know we have land on both 360 and 287 down on the far end that can be developed, and we're excited about what we think will be the future there along 360 and see some real prospects for the development of the city to the south.
How big is Joe Pool Lake?
That question I don't have an answer to.
Okay.
You stumped me. I knew
I
you
was
would,
wondering,
Shelby.
So that
It's a big
brown
lake.
area is the area that is up for development.
That's correct. And we also...
Why hasn't anyone developed on it prior? I feel like waterfront is such a no-brainer.
It is. I think it's a couple of things. Number one, it's going to take, and you mentioned earlier you want to talk incentives, and we can touch on that, but it's going to take some help. We do have a tax increment reinvestment zone, or a TIF, surrounding this area. But it's set to expire here in just a few years. So we're probably going to explore extending that one too, so we can keep it going. But another thing is, anything like that's going to take some time. You've got to put some development agreements together, negotiate a memorandum of understanding or two, and make sure everybody's united on how it's going to be. The Corps has specific reasons. A number of people have looked at it and said, ooh, I'd like to put multifamily out there or residential, but you can't.
Oh, okay.
You can't use it that way. So we want to make sure the Corps stays happy and we meet their requirements. So we've kind of got to respect what they want and what they don't want on that site. We have another site across from it, a 12.5 acre site that's got some real potential across from the Oasis restaurant next to our marina. And I'm actually meeting and talking with somebody. I think we might see something come over there and develop on that portion because you got some great views of the lake.
Yeah. Where's Lockheed Martin in relation?
Lockheed Martin, and we'll have to flip back over.
Oh,
It's
sorry,
going to
is
be
that too different?
It's going to be back to the north. It's on the 161 corridor, which is really that's our hot location right now. There's so much going on along the 161 corridor. There's the Lockheed Martin Missiles and Fire Control headquarters.
Okay.
Airbus Helicopters is just a little to the west by the Grand Prairie Municipal Airport. So.
But these maps these aerials that the city provide just have a wealth of information if you're in residential or commercial development, because it shows all the neighborhood, it has all the businesses. And how often do you typically update them with everything
Great
going
question.
on?
We're due for an update,
Okay.
usually every 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
You see there where we have marked parks and different facilities, and we'll try to put in, let me see if I can find the box that kind of the legend, shows some of the things that you'll see as to how uses were intended for properties. And so, that we'll have changes that'll take place that we need to update this with. I mentioned TIF number 1. In addition to extending it 20 more years, we expanded it, it went from being 4,400 acres to almost 12,000 acres. So we've got to add all those new zones.
That's great.
We've got to get a new one made pretty soon.
But it's just great information, but we need to take a break. So when we come back, we are going to continue to talk with Marty and ask him our questions 2 through 10.
Excellent.
So stay right tuned, and we'll be right back after this brief commercial break.
Thank you.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at propelio.com.
Welcome back. We're glad that you stayed with us. We're going to continue on with a few more questions. The next question I have is, what available properties are for sale in Grand Prairie?
Oh my goodness. We've got a lot of properties that are available for sale. I don't know where I would begin. We have to be cautious because there's so many. We subscribe to a thing known as CoStar that I think I mentioned earlier, because we want to make sure if anybody wants to find a property, we will help them. One of the things that I would tell you that's interesting, and she's pulled up the map on our website, Pam has, is that we have some city properties, some ones that we own, one in which I believe it's number 4 that's shown there, that ironically the city took some initiative to make sure it could be available for sale. May or may not sell it, but we had 2 citizen referendums. First, had to go to our citizens because that was part of the 170-acre park complex that the council went out and bought in 2000 before 161 was built, the President George Bush Turnpike. And that's where our Epic Waters and Summit Adult Activity Center is shown there in the middle of that purple. That is the first of its kind in the nation. It's an all-adult activity center. You have to be 50 and over or married to somebody 50 and over to belong. It's a baby boomers rec center, essentially.
Oh, good. I like
And,
that.
It's been
Those
very
are popping
popular.
up, yeah.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are great.
And so, but that land was parkland that's shown in purple. We recognize with those facilities going in, that would be great commercial development. Especially with the water park, we probably would want to see maybe a hotel there for people who come in and want to bring their kids and have a place to go stay if they want to go to the water park for several days. So, long story short, we went to our citizens, and they voted first to approve allowing the council to sell it, and then we also asked them, and they approved amending our charter, our city charter, kind of like our constitution, to allow the council to lease it for a longer period of time. We used to have a restriction that said they could only lease it for up to 30 years. Okay. And we knew that financial institutions would want to see probably 45, 50, 60. So that's both been approved. That's one that could be for sale.
That's great, but we've talked about before, Shelby, on the show, finding those hidden opportunities, and a lot of times you don't think about possibly going on the city's website, but you can tell right here on the Grand Prairie, Texas website, they list it right here, the available properties for sale, and most all cities do that, and it's a great opportunity from property owners to the city selling properties, so that's a great resource to have.
It really is.
Let's see, I'll go to the next question. Sorry. Yeah, that was.
Did we already answer that one?
It says, does the city have any available properties or buildings for sale? And that was kind of, I guess.
We do have, our city manager likes to do a summary from time to time of all of our properties because we do own a lot of different sites. If somebody was interested, we'd be glad to show them that map. Not all of them are going to have buildings on them, but some might have some older buildings, so sure.
Okay. What are the latest retail developments in your city?
Oh yeah, we've got a few. I mentioned the living spaces. We're thrilled about that one. That's going to be 175,000 square feet of space. To the south of it, across from our IKEA, which opened up a year ago in December, Weber and Company, John Weber, the developer, has introduced the first phase of what's going to be 500,000 square feet of space on both sides of the President George Bush Turnpike 161. He's created what's called Epic West. We just opened up Ross. There's a Michaels. There's a Home Goods. Just yesterday they opened, this isn't retail, it's restaurant, but it's still related. They opened up a new Olive Garden. We've got a couple of other restaurants that have been announced, Fuzzies. Okay. But we've got a whole slew of junior anchor type retailers there on the backside, Burlington and Burke's, Cons, a few others. So we're thrilled to see that come to fruition, because that's really not something Grand Prairie's really ever had other than our outlet mall, the premium outlet mall.
I was going to say, I just saw Jennifer Frank with Segovia,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she's the one who does all the IKEA. She's the broker for them.
She's the one who worked with our staff. It was before I came, but she did all the legwork in getting all that set up.
And talking to her as far as I think she mentioned it's a 300,000 square foot building on 30 acres.
Yes,
so
just a little under, about 293.
Okay.
And they still have pads on either side. You want to talk about available properties? They have land, as IKEA routinely does when they come into a market. They not only buy their site, but they buy land near it, because they somewhat want to control who their neighbors are. And so now she represents them, Jennifer does, in trying to find buyers to purchase and develop that next door.
Okay.
So we're kind of tag teaming, talking about the International Council of Shopping Centers Real Estate Convention, or RECON as it's called, that's coming up in a few weeks, trying to make some appointments and push the rope, as I like to say, try to generate some heat and get people thinking about those sites.
Okay.
But yeah, Jennifer mentioned how, you talk about development and how long some of these deals can take. I mean, I think she mentioned could have been maybe 14 years that it took IKEA from looking at going to do 3 different cities in Dallas, Frisco, and then Grand Prairie, and that how many years it takes to actually get that type of retailer to a community, and out of everywhere they could have gone, and then to end up in Grand Prairie, the whole process of it can take.
Wow.
The germination
14
process.
years?
I mean, from the time they really start, looking at properties.
Wow.
Yeah,
that type of time frame.
Economic development doesn't happen overnight. So I appreciate you sharing that story, because that's different times we'll talk to people about that. That you've got to roll up your sleeves and really talk and sell what you've got, and go back and be persistent and not be afraid to ask again and again.
Right.
All right, I'll move on to the next one. What are the top 10 retailers you want in your city?
Oh, well.
Who don't
I don't
you
know.
have
Some
yet?
of that's proprietary.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can really tell you all that. I can tell you the thing that our citizens ask for the most. How's that?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
They ask a lot for HEB grocery, which I stay in contact with the site representative for HEB for our region, Larry Miller. We have good conversations, talk with him regularly, and some of the other staff there. They're still saying Central Market is all that they're building in the 4 urban counties here in North Texas.
Why is that?
That's not something they're going to reveal, but I think it's probably a very sound strategy. They're a private business. They're privately owned by the H.E. Butts family, so they can do what they want to do. They don't have any stockholders to report to.
Yeah.
And so they're just being very wise and thinking about how they can get us really hungry and thirsty for HEBs and their products.
Thinking another grocery store. But who else do your citizens? Because I know a lot of cities will send out a list of their community or have, come in at different council meetings. And who else are you see requesting?
They're asking for Sprouts. I hear sometimes Whole Foods. Talk to Tim Hughes with Falcon, who represents them, and and Carla Smith with CBRE, who represents Sprouts. We've had requests for a sporting goods store of some kind. our city manager would really love to see an academy or something of that sort. You know, that we would love to see. That's something that's been missing, is to see a good sporting goods store.
So that surprises me that you don't have that. So the value of meeting with you is coming in to find out, you know, what your citizens are looking for.
Oh, sure.
And to, if you're a developer, to, you know, try to find the best property in your city and then go get those tenants to your community. So that's the value of finding out who's missing.
Okay.
There's a real desire for sit-down restaurants. That's why I mentioned they had a huge crowd of people. The chamber brought mounds of folks yesterday for the grand opening of Olive Garden.
Okay.
So any kind of quality sit-down restaurant, our citizens love to see. They were thrilled with the new Jason's Deli, and it's remained packed since it opened up next to IKEA. So it just depends on the community. And
We need to bring some restaurants.
Yes, I have a tangent kind of question.
Please,
so
please.
do they just prefer like franchise restaurants? Or,
No.
Because since I'm a small business owner, I'm thinking more about like, you know, the unique,
Thank you.
one-of-a-kind places other than like the big box places.
We like those too.
help stimulate, you know, small business growth.
Thank you. Thank you. We were talking earlier about, in the entree, you mentioned from the start, the community that has a fire station that's been converted to a restaurant. That's ours. The Firehouse Gastro Park, which kind of had a pop-up preview this past weekend for our Main Street Fest.
Okay.
We annually have a 3-day Main Street Fest festival downtown. And they did a preview and opened up their doors and showed Z-Birds, which is one of their 2 internal restaurants. And then, and I'm going to go blank on the other one. It's called, it's another variation, but it's all under the Firehouse Gastro Park. The owners of the Firehouse Gastro Park, Jason and Carly Smith. Carly grew up in Grand Prairie. She and Jason met. They're actors in California and still own Mama's Medicine. It's a mobile cocktail company. They were doing all kinds of receptions and premieres and things in Beverly Hills. And long story short, had a daughter, and her parents wanted them to move home, and they became aware of the firehouse that we had built by volunteer firefighters
So
in
did
the
the
40s
city-
and 50s. And the city had been saying, we'd like to see this be converted. Art Deco look could be perfect. Let's make this into a restaurant.
So
Our
the
city manager
the
joked.
city owned it, the
Yes.
fire station, and
Yes.
you probably relocated.
We
maybe.
built a brand new one across the street.
So
gorgeous.
that's another thing that I've seen happening, an older fire station.
Yes.
And then relocating, so that fire station becomes available. And so the city sold it to Jason and
They're
or
leasing it from us.
Leasing it from the city.
We teamed up together
Okay.
to fix it up, and they have a right of first refusal to kind of purchase it in a couple of years. We'll go through an appraisal, and they'll purchase it more than likely. I tease them that I'll pay for their business cards if they want to have them made up that say Mama's Medicine, Beverly Hills, California, Grand Prairie, Texas, because they do have that lit up inside Mama's Medicine back on their bar. And so they, it's called Meet Spartacus. That's the other restaurant inside.
That's cute.
Playing off the show. And it's MEAT instead of
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
So that's what I couldn't think of. Got to make sure I get that right.
So when
very
is that
unique.
opening? Yeah.
They're going to open up here in just a few weeks.
Great.
They're going to have a soft
Right on
opening.
Main Street.
Right on Main Street. We've got Zavala's Barbecue, another Grand Prairie resident. Joe Zavala grew up there, moved away, came back, and said, he loves barbecue, wants to be on the Texas Monthly Top 50 barbecue list. He had been working out of his smoker and cooking up overnight and going and delivering food, and we just sent him got on Twitter, had sent him a note and said, hey, whenever you're ready to build, we'd love to see you come back to the place where you grew up. And lo and behold, he's bought a building and has set up shop and just opened here about 2 months ago.
That's great, and
he's
it's on
rocking
Main
it.
Street.
And
you said?
he's only open 1 day a week.
Oh,
Every
wow.
Saturday, he
gosh.
sells till he runs out of barbecue.
That's my kind of work day.
We'll have to go there, check it out.
He's got another job. He does quite well as a consultant for a company up in Addison. But those are
love
both
that, yeah.
unique one and onlys.
Okay.
We like bringing in those kinds of restaurants. Yeah.
I
They're
know,
very
Marty,
authentic.
Marty, going on your website under downtown development, it shows that right on here, if you go on their website,
Yes.
the downtown master plan and available downtown properties. So you can click on one of those.
You can.
Reload. You could reload. Let me go to a different one. But that's great to
Hopefully
show
that one will come up.
available.
There we go. Good.
So you have discount guns.
Yeah, that was what
ammo.
it used to be. On the back side of it, there's a great metal building. I really think that facility would be tremendous as either a brewery or a distillery.
Ooh.
'Cause
Oh,
it's
that's
right-
the whole.
That's the whole complex, yeah.
Right back there.
And it's got metal buildings. So it's got a great feel right on Beltline and Davis, just off of Main Street.
Yeah, that's great. Just to go on your website and have those available properties, or drive around, or go meet Marty and see what type of other unique restaurants they're looking for in that category.
Meet Rita Heap, who's our Main Street manager,
Okay.
and she's done a lot of work and would be glad to help you do a property search.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'll move on to the next question. We kind of touched on this, but what casual diners, fast food, or other national retailers are needed in your city?
Well, we want. I'm going to quote the mayor. We want ones we don't already have.
Yeah.
More than anything, we've stressed this to the developers that we've got on the 161 corridor as well as on 20 and 30. We don't mind you at all bringing in certain kinds. We'd much rather have one that that's not in our city.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's always difficult because people are not always comfortable with drive-throughs, but the right kind of drive-through is accepted. And you're seeing certain kinds of restaurants that have never had drive-throughs add drive-throughs.
Mm-hmm.
Panera Bread is a good example. You're starting to see those kinds of restaurants do that. But if we don't have it, we want it. Because the whole goal is, when you've got a city of almost 200,000 people, our citizens would prefer to eat in town. And we'd like our employers, the people that are working on that 161 corridor, from Arkansas Lane and 161, we had a map done. And by the way, this is something we can do for you, and you can also do on our website.
Oh.
You can do mapping.
Oh.
And we were able to put together, Terry Tate, who's our IT business analyst.
wow,
I
that's
kind of said, look, do a 8-minute drive time from the intersections of Arkansas Lane and 161. We have 21,000 jobs. So, we knew that was something that would be important to be able to show restaurateurs that, look, there's really, truly a hungry populace here.
Wow, yeah, that's
of
great.
people that are working in town.
That is.
Do you have a map that shows all of the current restaurants on there?
Don't,
Or-
but we could make one up.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that would
Yeah.
be a good one.
Yeah.
We could make one up.
All your casual diners to see who you're missing, who we can bring to your community.
That's a great idea.
Let's see. Do you know of? Does your city offer any incentives to developers or retailers?
We do, as most cities do. You were talking earlier about the environment, Pam, where we've got so many cities, you named us, and several others. We have what I heard somebody in this region call years ago, co-opetition. We cooperate with one another, but we compete. We're really competing all the time. And some of the ways you don't have a choice but to compete are when it comes to incentives. We don't necessarily mention that in the first discussion. It's not something you're going to hear me just say, hey, I want to give you an incentive kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we recognize, too, for the right kinds of businesses, we've got no choice but to consider them. I'll share with you an example of a new incentive type that we just were able to create. I made reference to the City Council extending and expanding the boundaries of our TIF, number 1, TIRZ, Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 1, which was up in the northern part of our city. We expanded it up there, took it over to the west, over to 360 into Tarrant County. That's where I was this morning with the Commissioner's Court. Down south, down by the Epic area on 161. It allows us, because the state law has changed, to now take what the city would spend over the next 20 years. Basically, a TIF freezes the values at where they are, and all the increment, anything that's above what's valued right now, can be invested back into only those properties. So you can build infrastructure with it. You can also do what's called a TIF grant. And I had learned this working with the city I was at previously. You can change your TIF and have access to dollars so that our city council can be empowered to team up with somebody. For instance, on the very northern end of our city, we've had a plan with frontage roads being put on 360, and I saw Pam had this one up earlier. OmniPlan laid out plans where we could do some attractive corporate office and mid to high-rise multifamily wrap product. But admittedly, some of that isn't cheap to build. And so if we have somebody, a developer that does their pro forma and comes back and says, you know, we got a gap. We want to do this project in your city, but based on the property cost, based on the construction cost, we've got a $500,000 or we got $1 million grant gap. Might that be something that would qualify for your TIF grant? And would your council be willing to consider that? And if we'd say, you know, well, perhaps let us see your plans. Let us see what kind of density you're looking at. Are you going to put, is it going to be mixed use? You're going to put maybe some, do it podium style and then build up and put some restaurant retail on the ground floor? What exactly are you going to put in there and how's it going to look? And if our council agrees, they would consider giving them a grant because it would help them achieve what they really want to see.
Okay.
Changes our whole front door, really.
Yeah.
So, Marty, if you're looking for incentives, I know every time I do a development, that's the first question I always ask for. What incentives do you have? And back to your website under incentives policy.
It's there.
It lists everything from office to retail to tax abatements.
To TIFs. Yep.
To retail to downtown. I mean, just great information. But what would be the next step? So I just come into you, we start talking about the pro forma on the incentives for you, but then after that it goes to P&Z City Council for approval. I know it's a lot longer, but are you the first contact to at least start talking to it about?
Me and my staff are the first contacts. You know, we really stress to everybody, you know, make sure you're able to make a case, make a business case for why you need an incentive in the first place. And if you do your homework and you're able to show, you know, hey, we feel like we meet this criteria for this reason, then we'll assist you in filling out the application, even review it afterwards. I have to sign off on it before we pass it up the line. Our city has council committees, so it would go to probably 2 different council committees. There's a Finance and Government Committee made up of 3 council members, and then there's also a council development committee. They will review it in executive session, which means behind closed doors. State law still permits you to do that on a proprietary type basis of a prospective business development. You don't have to talk about it out until you're ready to vote on it.
Okay.
So we're able to negotiate in private up until the point where a formal vote takes place. And that's a good thing. I hope our legislature continues to protect that. There was some who tried to attack that in recent years, saying that needs to be transparent. But unfortunately, as you know, a deal can't be made in the public, out in the public
because
discussion.
then a competitor could come and do it, right? So
that's right.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, why would you not want that private?
Well, thank you. I'm not sure that everybody understood that. But yes, there's no reason, especially for businesses that we work with. If it's a specific business, they've got proprietary data. They don't need their competitors seeing that type of thing. You as a developer, you working as a developer or with a developer as a client, they don't want people to know what they're getting ready to do.
No, exactly. Right. And then another city may know too, and you don't want the other city to
Bingo.
know.
How competitive it is.
Yeah. There's that co-opetition. That's too much. That's too much cooperativeness at that point.
I agree.
That kills that.
We need to take a break.
Oh.
We need to take a commercial break, but we have just a few more questions to ask Marty on that and go over what else is happening in the city of Grand Prairie. We're going to take a quick commercial break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at propelio.com.
Welcome back. We are going to wrap up our last 3 questions, and I guess I'll go ahead and start with the next one. So, do you know of any property owners looking for a broker to list their property, land, or retail buildings?
I don't, because most already have one, but I certainly will keep you all in mind if I hear of somebody.
Okay, good.
I will tell you, I know that Pam is looking, she was pulling up the concept plan. If you hit the PDF, you may be able to even see the presentation of this. But for one of the properties involved with this gateway at Grand Prairie design that OmniPlan put in place, you can actually go down if you want to see it. That's specifically the look. You can see the density that we're talking about. It's the one place that OmniPlan identified could be an urban project between downtown Dallas and downtown Fort Worth. That one of the property owners we did this for made it very clear they don't want to have a broker. And yet, over time, as I talked with them, they came to realize we really probably ought to get a broker, and they did eventually. Now, one other property owner still has said, nope, I'm going to do it myself, and that's their prerogative. I'm never going to criticize them, but I'm not sure they understand the benefits you get from having somebody who's a professional
that knows what they're doing.
Well, listen to you. That's true.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's true. That's exactly right. And so I try to point that out to them, that it helps to have somebody that can link you in with people that have done this before. But
yeah, exactly.
That's smart.
Yeah, I was just going to say the reason we always ask the economic development director, because sometimes you may have the city looking for a broker. I did have a listing.
Did you?
From one of the cities.
Very
by
good.
asking, and was able. It had to go through city council approval. I had to do a presentation, but we were able to get the listing.
Well, and minority-owned business. So
That's right. That's right.
Brilliant. We should hit up every city.
MWBE right there.
That, but
Yes.
I just. And then sometimes you may just have a local property owner that has no idea what to do with their property,
That's
can
right.
hire as a consultant that we do consulting work, brokerage work. So we always ask the question, there could be an opportunity out there, and to keep us in mind.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just
Thank
ask
you.
that question.
Good question.
Did you have any to go
Oh,
over
I was
the-
just wondering. I'm sorry, I missed. Where did you say this was between downtown Dallas and downtown Fort Worth?
This is looking west. You know the sign that's out in front of the you were talking about the theater. I jokingly call it the theater formerly known as Verizon.
Yes.
The
Okay.
theater at Grand Prairie.
Yes.
That's the sign.
Oh, okay.
So you're able to see an area that right now doesn't have any kind of density
Oh,
like
wow.
that.
Okay.
How it could be built up in the coming years as we work with property owners and work with prospects
Okay.
and achieve that kind of development. So
And how many
that's
acres would this take on each side?
I did not bring the whole plan.
Oh, sorry.
but it might even show in here. It's pretty big.
It looks pretty big. That's why I was wondering
Yep.
how many property owners.
We only identified, for instance, in the analysis that they did, 3 of the 4 corners, because we already had some development on the northwest corner. And yet you saw that one elevation you put up earlier, Pam, included kind of their rendering on how it might look as it built out in the years to come. And it included reworking some of what's over on this side, conceivably, that could be changed over to be urban as well. But,
So is that a variety of property owners in city, or is
it
it
is.
just okay?
And
so
the city doesn't own any of it.
Okay, so it's working with all those all the individual property owners for a master plan type?
So are
That's exactly right. And we've got
Hmm.
all the property owners and their brokers on a sheet that I can email you.
Okay.
If you want to see that, I'd be glad to share it with you. So you're able to talk to the people that, both the property owners and the brokers, very transparently. And we have within the study that OmniPlan did, and you can find that online. I don't know if you'll be able to find it if you go down, Pam, but it does show all of the properties and the size.
Oh, okay.
So you're
Are
able
some
to,
of them not
on that,
wanting to
on
sell?
that link right there.
Are some of them wanting to lease?
Some I think are wanting to stay. Great question. Some would like to stay and maybe get some mailbox money out of it. Maybe be a co-investor. Maybe be a joint venture partner and realize some benefit as some of that. We did this study. Palace Parkway, this road exists here. It now exists here, but it was done for that purpose. It was just completed here about 3 weeks ago. And we did, this study was done for these 2 private property owners so that we could show them what this could develop like as this road was put in.
Okay.
And we went ahead and said, hey, while we're doing it, we might as well include these properties because new frontage roads are being added now on I-30 on both sides of 30. And it's causing properties that have been visible to now be accessible. People have been driving or by them for years saying, ooh, that looks nice. How do I get to it? Now you
Yeah.
can just drive right up to it.
Oh, that's
So
great.
it makes it nice.
So who do you use to do the studies?
Well, great question. I turned to somebody that's in the development business that had been a part of some of the major corporate office projects up in the Platinum Corridor and said, who would you recommend? And we started talking. OmniPlan had been involved with City Line, with Legacy West, with some of the other projects, and we knew they had a really good resume. So we talked with them and ended up hiring them to do this.
That's the name of the company who did that, OmniPlan.
Okay, gotcha. I see.
So that's, and we hired Catalyst Commercial to come in and kind of give this document, give some market data, to kind of give the whole study legs. You know, it's great to have a tremendous rendering that looks like this, but you also want to say, well, what does the market bear? What does it say? So they were able to come through and evaluate, you know, what exactly the demographics, what the multifamily construction nearby, what does it look like?
So I'm sorry, maybe the viewers, I don't know if y'all, so OmniPlan is not a developer. This is just what they do. So you pay,
architects
so like city planners, engineers.
Yeah.
Okay, just wondering. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great question.
Okay, and then the ninth question is, can we leave information in marketing flyers to promote our company and what we are looking to acquire?
We don't have a place to leave flyers. One thing I did in my previous city that I've thought about and would hope to be able to do eventually here is to try to get, I think you may have come, I don't know if I did one of my exchange meetings, I would bring brokers together on a monthly basis and have continental breakfast and get up early in the morning and serve them coffee and use that as a way for them to share data. I would present something property specific, maybe we do one on the area there on 30, that OmniPlan, share the study, talk about what Jason Claunch has pulled together, and then we leave it time for everybody to introduce themselves and hand out their data. We don't presently have a venue yet, or a forum where you could do that.
Okay.
That's great.
Do other cities have something like that?
Well, sometimes you can leave your information, or you can leave your flyers, your marketing brochures. If you had properties in Grand Prairie, you could leave them. Or when they have at the Texas ICSC, sometimes they'll let you put your property on so that they can also promote your property.
That is
besides online.
That you mentioned ICSC and the now Red River Conference, as it's called, which is 4 states: Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas. ICSC has this regional conference. We get a booth for that one. We just make appointments at Recon. But at our booth, we reach out to anybody that's representing properties in our city, and we grab their flyers and we show them in our booth.
Okay.
So we want to be able to promote how our brokers are marketing parcels for retail restaurant development.
Okay.
In that case, yeah.
Is this our last question?
Last
number 10?
question. Are you ready?
Ready.
Yes. Drum roll.
May we have permission to take a picture with you and promote on our social media pages?
Definitely. I'd be honored.
That's funny that I put that question.
No, that's great. I feel like it shows building relationships and rapport, especially if you're going out and meeting with different cities. So.
Yeah. No. And for you, again, if we can ever get an exchange meeting kind of set up on a regular basis to meet with bankers and commercial contractors and various others, it ends up just playing into that whole network where you're able to talk to somebody, architects, engineers. If you need somebody that knows the area, they can assist you.
Okay.
So that's what we're always highlighting, is to find a community that you really want to, help bring restaurants to, that you may have grown up in, or you live there now and you're able to bring restaurants to your community, and just really get to know the economic development director is so important. And so it's really helpful to build a relationship with them, because you can tell how much of a wealth of information they're competing with other cities, and what they'll do, to bring it to their community, like your fitness place.
Yes.
Have to look at a location.
We talked earlier. I think we've got some suggestions we'll make in terms of demographics.
And Power Fit too, everyone.
Yep. That's right. But I just wanted, your website, your city has done an excellent job and a wealth of information.
Thank you.
And I was on the About Us page, and I've mentioned this before with retailers as far as reading the annual reports.
Yep.
But the city of Grand Prairie, you can go online here under About Us, and it has it right here, the state of the city approval. Yep. And your mayor did a great video, which I watched.
Did you?
Good. It was really entertaining. He's an entertaining mayor.
He really is. Ron Jensen's tremendous.
Done a great job. And then you can also click on the download the annual report.
Right.
And you have
So
a hard copy
I brought
of
a hard copy with me, so
good.
there you go. You've got one. But yeah, you can download it right there, what you're going to see on online.
But it has so much information. It had your top 2018 goals, what you're looking for 2019, how we talked about what you're looking for the cities and all your new development that's happening. And exactly, I mean, it's just a, great information. So if you're developing commercial property, you can, just get so much information from it. But
You really can. You can size up a community pretty quickly. And I'll share your compliment with our marketing and communications department. They'll be grateful. That's
Yeah.
nice of you to say that the website's good.
they did a really good job. So,
That's the firehouse, by the way. You can see on the lower right-hand corner.
oh, there it is right there.
It's an Art Deco
Oh.
feel.
Right there.
And it's as it's finished, you need to come see it. It's tremendous.
That's awesome.
They've done a great job in turning it into a real destination.
I know I can see the city's very active too on Facebook and all the social media. I'm sure it
Well-
even shows how many times you post or comment everything.
And I was you and I were talking earlier about LinkedIn. That may be one of the best ways if you're a broker and you want to share your information. You see a post we make about something, go ahead and log on and say, I've got a flyer on that site, and maybe somebody else sees it, or even you post it if you want. That provides another vehicle for you guys to be able to
I
push
have
that out.
one last question.
Okay.
If that's okay. It's not on
Not on the list.
I was just wondering, so how do you market to foreign investors? Or do you do that? How do you market to get more people to come into Grand Prairie and build that community?
We have not, as information, to give you an idea, we talked about EDCs and non-EDC cities. As a non-EDC city, we have a staff of 4, and plus we have an IT assistant, that business analyst that I mentioned to you. Another city in our region that's about our same size that's an EDC has a staff of 9. So they may have somebody that goes and does international development. We don't
Okay.
presently have somebody doing that, but we do help with EB5 applications. I've got 2 I've got to help get to fruition and finish out for the mayor's signature. We'll have different consultants contact us of people that are trying to get funding through EB5 for them to be able to hire on staff that are international in nature. So we're more than willing to help, but we don't presently have anybody
Okay.
working specifically for international investment.
Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, good question.
The other thing I saw on your website, and I did download, which I always highly recommend also, is to download the app.
Yes.
So you have your own Grand Prairie app, and
We do.
going through that had some great information on developments, what was happening April. It was so updated. April 2019, it broke it out exactly what was happening in retail, what was happening in restaurants, multifamily, your new development in each category. Do you do that every month?
Our
or-
planning department does it quarterly. They'll push out development services. Planning's under them. They'll do quarterly reports and try to make sure you've got that type of information available. It's always good to check their site too. There's been some major changes in both our industrial as well as some of our retail design standards. So you're able to log on and pick those up through an attachment they have on their site.
Yeah, planning and zoning is definitely a good find out, see what's happening on the agendas, upcoming agendas.
And those are all posted. They're all posted. Council and P&Z agendas are posted on the website.
Do you do those live on Facebook when you have your P&Z and City Council meetings?
I don't know if P&Z is. I think it is.
City
Council
Council.
definitely is.
So I know when I sometimes have nothing to do, I'll just watch the City Council of different cities to find out, because it's a great resource to find out possibly where the IKEA, some of the bigger developments are going, so that you can buy property next door way ahead of time, because they're presenting to try to get properties approved
That's
for
a great-
replatting and all that.
Yeah, we have a main event coming, and that's building right there between the Summit Adult Activity Center and John Weber's Epic West, and they came through to council for some of their initial site plan approval, but didn't make known they were coming till months later, and yet had someone been watching, they would have seen that main event was out
Right.
checking into the city.
And you can get ahead. You can find out.
You
your...
should have shared that.
Oh,
Golly, that was
strategy.
Yeah,
that's that
was,
other. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Nobody. They won't watch it.
Yeah.
Trust me. Yeah, download.
They didn't make it this far.
They won't watch it like I'm. They're not that bored at home watching different city council meetings.
Well, I'm gonna
I
start
used to
doing it
attend
now.
so many city council meetings. I just found it so interesting to find out what's happening in your community.
Well,
And if you don't like something, get involved, right?
let me give you both a reason to come out and see our city too. I did bring you both a pass to Epic Waters.
We'll have to
Indoor
go.
water park. So we're about to open up the wave pool, and so I think there's going to be a great opportunity to get even more people into that park. It
Gotta
drew
get bikini
300
ready.
Oh gosh, yeah.
360,000 in its first year. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
People?
360,000 people in
Oh,
the first year.
that's a lot of chlorine that
That's a lot of chlorine. You're right.
I hope it is at least.
Yes. Oh, it is.
So
is.
tell me, I know I saw this. I actually saw the opening on Good Morning Texas.
Yes.
And
yes.
when they did a walkthrough of it, I'm like, oh my gosh. So where are they based out of, the Epic Waters?
Well,
Or-
the group that was hired to manage the facility, American Resort Management, is out of Erie, Pennsylvania. Our council was very wise and said early on, we're going to build this, but we're going to hire a professional operator. We don't need to be in the water park business ourselves.
So this is city-owned?
City-owned.
You hired an operator?
That's correct.
Okay. Wow, that's great.
And it's indoor, it looks like.
It has a retractable roof.
Oh, okay.
So it's indoor, 80,000 square feet, and has the tallest, I'm going to make sure I get it right, it's the tallest water slide in North America. Indoor water
wow.
slide.
Wow.
So
So,
a cupola up top so you can get up there. The mayor was the first to do
You
it.
need oxygen.
yes. During the summer, if it is raining, will the park stay open and you'll just close the...
It's, yes. And sometimes they'll open it up in the summer. Normally it's closed because they want to maintain about 86 degree temperature in the place.
nice.
So it can vary.
So are there hotels, I'm guessing, around?
There will be. There is a Marriott Courtyard under construction right across the highway that's going to have about 120 rooms.
Any
But
property
we're
for
seeing
sale
some more.
around this?
There's property for sale not far from there. So
Okay.
You have to go drive
not,
that area.
not all around it, but there's some for sale nearby.
Well, that's great. Well, we are so glad you were able to come in today. We just
I'm
kind of
honored you
wanted
asked
to
me.
really recap with you just what we went over, the 10 questions as far as what to ask your local economic development director. Go on LinkedIn, connect with them, go
Yes.
on their website, get all the information, the available properties, and
Follow them on Twitter, on Facebook. I mean, we'll push things out all the time if we can.
but you're an excellent resource. And do you have any other questions? Or
No, not right now. I'm sure I'll have more in a second.
But I also, just one more thing on that aerial map, because I love
Yes.
the aerial map, the big
Yeah.
one that you have, and just wanted to tell the viewers, but when you definitely pick this up, I'll just keep it in my car with a permanent marker.
There you go, a Sharpie.
And I always usually request 2 of them, if they'll spare 2 of them at the city, and then just start circling and highlighting, and if I know what the property is or calling, and just carry this around me so that you always know what property or what's happening in the community.
That's
city.
wise.
And you said this is downloadable as well.
It is. It is.
Just because I'd love
But-
to be able to zoom in and get even closer.
Mm-hmm.
Like on an iPad or something.
When it's funny you mentioned about that with a Sharpie. That's exactly what I did when we started looking at the TIF map. What's shown in red was the original, and then when I started driving, I got a Sharpie out and drew where I thought we may want to expand.
Okay.
So those maps are of great value.
I know, they're great. They're great. Anything else you wanted to go over as far as Lone Star, anything happening, updated with that?
Well, we're in the middle of the thoroughbred season, so I brought along the calendar. As you can imagine, things get pretty popular this weekend because it is the Kentucky Derby race weekend. Even though it'll be shown simulcast here as well. But they've thrilled that they've started adding. Had the big Steve Sexton race this past weekend. Started as they've opened. I'd recommended they start doing a major stakes race of some kind, celebrating their name. So they have the Blue Bonnet Stakes. I tease them and say it should be the Blur in the Bonnets. I want Jason and Carly Smith with Mama's Medicine to make up a drink. If you come up with a specialty drink, and make it a real destination from time to time. So they're doing a great job. What's interesting is right around them and the Verizon and property all the way over to 161. This is our only opportunity zone. The new tax law permitted that we could submit census tracts and the governor selected this one in our city. So there's some real opportunity for some development in and around there that can be held federal income tax free.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about opportunity zones. That's the latest, greatest buzzword with all cities of what's happening with those opportunity zones, big time.
The IRS just revealed some new rules this past week. I'm still trying to get my hands around them. But the best thing is we've got people that are looking at, with the Opportunity Zone funds, how they can come in and invest. We're starting to get calls from different people. And I think there's a real chance we could see this yield some development there that we wouldn't have otherwise.
How long did you say that they wouldn't have to pay federal taxes?
Good question. They end up going through 2027. There's some talk that it's probably going to be extended because if somebody's just getting started, they've already lost a few years. It's meant to go a decade.
Yeah,
if you buy it and hold it a full 10 years, you end up holding it tax-free. If you hold it only, let's say you go 5 and you sell, I think you get a 15% break. If you hold it 7, you get, I think, a 25% break. So there's real motivation to come in, either buy a business and fix it up or build and develop something and add value and hold it for a decade.
Okay.
So it's almost like a 1031 exchange. You get the benefit from taking revenues you've got and investing them and having them be held without a federal income tax.
Yeah, it's
That's
giving
awesome.
developers, property owners, a new option to look at and consider.
It really is.
So the prairie's getting grander and grander and grander. That
you sure hope so.
$200 for all, $200 from the 1893 or so. I mean, what it is today has
To a
really
dollar
come
or
a
two
long.
more, yeah.
It's really come a long way. Yeah. So we really, really appreciate you being here.
It's my pleasure.
And
Thank you.
City of Grand
Thank you
Prairie. It's exciting. We definitely need to go out and start looking at some. I have been. I always drive that corridor by IKEA and talking to Jennifer. I know John Weber, of course.
Yes.
And he's such a great developer, bringing lots of great retail and restaurants to community developments. And so we need to go.
Yes.
Come see me. I'll buy you lunch.
Okay.
Be glad to.
Good. Yeah, we want to go eat at the new fire station.
The firehouse.
Yes,
Yeah, Firehouse
that's where
Gastro
I wanna
Park.
go. Yes, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Good
great.
restaurant.
Well, thank you so much for
my
being
pleasure.
here. We like, share if you like this episode. If you have any questions, that's great. And definitely go visit your local economic development director if you want to do business. They're always open for business. City
Always.
of Grand Prairie. Go visit Marty. You'd be happy. Connect with him on LinkedIn. Have a great day, and thank you for watching today.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCastro.com, and LifeInner.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.